3 weeks had passed since the battle. Earth was still standing, but everything had changed. The secret was out. Humanity possessed weapons that could destroy fleets. The galaxy knew, and the galaxy was watching. Dr. Helen Carter stood before the United Nations General Assembly in New York, facing representatives from every nation on Earth. The huge hall was packed with diplomats, scientists, and military leaders. Cameras broadcast her testimony to billions of people around the world. The technology we use to defend Earth was developed over 75 years, Helen explained. Her voice steady despite her nervousness. Every piece of alien technology we found, every crashed probe, every failed first contact that resulted in conflict, we studied it all. We learned from other civilizations' mistakes and successes. We were not aggressive, but we were never naive. A representative from France raised his hand. Dr. Carter, why was this technology not shared with all nations from the beginning? Helen looked at him directly. Because we needed time and we needed security. If every nation had known about this technology 50 years ago, there would have been conflicts over who controlled it. Nations would have fought each other to possess these weapons. We would have destroyed ourselves before any alien threat arrived. The secrecy was necessary for survival. And now, asked a representative from Japan. Now the secret is out, Helen said. Now we share everything. Every nation will have access to the technology. Every nation will participate in Earth's defense. Because the galaxy knows what we have, and unity is our only path forward. In the NORAD Command Center, Major Kyle Harrison reviewed intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The response to Earth's demonstration had been dramatic and immediate. His assistant, Lieutenant Gary Nelson, brought him the latest updates. Sir, 3 more civilizations have requested diplomatic contact. That brings the total to 17. 8 have offered technology exchanges, and 4 have asked for our protection against aggressive neighbors. Kyle rubbed his tired eyes. Protection? They want us to defend them? Yes, sir. Apparently, several smaller civilizations are impressed by our defensive capabilities. They believe having Earth as an ally would deter aggression from larger empires. Kyle thought about that. We are not ready to be galactic police. We just finished defending ourselves. Tell the diplomatic corps to be polite but non-committal. We need to understand the galaxy better before we start making promises to other worlds. Captain Daniel Brooks walked through the Earth Defense Station Liberty, inspecting repairs and upgrades. His crew had become famous overnight. Everyone on Earth knew their names now. They were the people who had operated the weapons that saved the world. Lieutenant Karen Price approached him with a tablet. Sir, we have been receiving messages from all over Earth. Marriage proposals, job offers, requests for interviews. Some people want to name their children after us. Daniel smiled slightly. We were just doing our jobs. Tell the Public Relations Office to handle it. We are soldiers, not celebrities. Yes, sir, Karen said. Then she hesitated. Sir, do you think we will have to fight again? Daniel looked out the window at the Earth below, so beautiful and fragile. I hope not. But if we do, we will be ready. That is what we trained for. That is what we will always do. In Washington, President Martinez met with his national security team. They were discussing Earth's first official contact with an alien civilization that had not tried to invade them. The Collective, an alliance of ancient races near the galactic core, had sent a message. Secretary of State George Palmer read the translation aloud. The Collective recognizes Earth as a sovereign power and invites humanity to send representatives to their council station. They wish to discuss peaceful cooperation and the sharing of knowledge. Is this legitimate? Martinez asked. Or is it another trap? Director of Intelligence Susan Boyd spoke up. She was 62 with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Our analysis suggests the Collective is genuine. They are one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They stopped expanding thousands of years ago, and now focus on knowledge and peaceful cooperation. They seem to view us as potential guardians, a young race with the strength to enforce peace. Martinez considered this. Send a response. Tell them we are interested in peaceful contact, but we will be cautious. Arrange for a small delegation to visit their council station. Choose our best diplomats. He looked around the room. Make it clear that Earth is open to friendship, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. We showed the galaxy our strength. Now we need to show them our character. Commander Lisa Grant had been chosen to lead Earth's first diplomatic mission to the Collective. She stood in her quarters, packing for a journey that would take her to a space station on the other side of the galaxy. Her assistant, Lieutenant Peter Walsh, helped her prepare. "Are you nervous, ma'am?" Peter asked. Lisa thought about that. "Yes, but also excited. We are about to meet civilizations that have existed for thousands of years, races that have seen empires rise and fall. We have so much to learn from them." "And they might have a lot to learn from us," Peter said. "We did just destroy an invasion fleet in 6 minutes." Lisa smiled. "That is exactly the image we need to move beyond. Yes, we can fight, but we also want to build, to explore, to cooperate. That is the message I will carry to the collective." In a classroom in Chicago, teacher Margaret Stevens tried to explain recent events to her students. The children were 10 years old, too young to fully understand galactic politics, but old enough to know their world had changed forever. Miss Stevens, a girl named Emily, raised her hand. "Are the aliens going to come back and try to hurt us again?" Margaret chose her words carefully. "Some aliens might try, but now they know we can defend ourselves. And not all aliens are bad. We are going to meet peaceful civilizations soon. We will make friends in space just like you make friends at school." A boy named Jack spoke up. "My dad says we should go to other planets now and show everyone we are strong." Margaret shook her head. "Being strong is not about showing off or conquering others. It is about protecting your family and standing up for what is right. Earth defended itself because it had to, but we do not want to become bullies. We want to be good neighbors in the galaxy." Far across space, in the throne room of the Zalkarian Empire, Emperor Cal Thrax received Earth's response to his diplomatic overture. The message was simple but firm. The Zalkarian Empire would be held responsible for any future attacks on Earth or its allies. Trade and peaceful contact were possible, but trust would take time to build. The Emperor's advisor read the message and looked worried. "Your Majesty, they refer to allies. The humans are already forming alliances with other civilizations." "Of course they are," the Emperor said. "They would be fools not to. We taught them that the galaxy is dangerous. Now they are making sure they have friends." He paused. "Send a response accepting their terms. Begin negotiations for a formal peace treaty. The humans have proven they can destroy us. Now we must prove we can coexist with them." On Earth, Dr. Helen Carter finally returned home after 3 weeks of briefings, testimonies, and planning sessions. She lived alone in a small apartment near the research station. She made herself tea and sat by the window looking at the stars. Dr. Vincent Moore called her on video chat. "Helen, are you okay? You disappeared after the UN testimony." "I am tired, Vincent. Tired but satisfied. We did it. We protected our world. Now we have to figure out what comes next." "The galaxy is not what we expected," Vincent said. "Some civilizations fear us. Others want to be our allies. And many are just watching, waiting to see what humanity will do with its power." Helen sipped her tea. "We will do what we have always done. We will survive. We will learn. And we will protect our own. But we will not become conquerors. That is not who we are. The weapons we built could conquer half the galaxy," Vincent pointed out. "Yes," Helen agreed. "But having the power to do something does not mean we should do it. That is the difference between us and the Zalkarians. They conquered because they could. We defend because we must." In the Pacific Ocean, Colonel Amy Watson stood on the deck of her flagship watching the sunset. Her fleet had been on high alert for 3 weeks, but no new threats had appeared. Slowly, carefully, humanity was beginning to relax its guard. Her executive officer joined her at the railing. "Colonel, do you think this is really over?" "The threat, I mean." Amy considered the question. "This threat is over. The Zalkarians will not attack us again, but there will be other threats. There always are. The difference is that now everyone knows we can defend ourselves. That knowledge is worth more than any weapon." "You sound optimistic," the officer said. "I am," Amy replied. "For the first time in my career, I actually believe humanity has a future in space. Not as conquerors, but as equals. We earned our place at the table. Now we just have to be wise enough to keep it." 6 months after the battle, Earth had changed in countless ways. The defense technology was being shared with all nations. New space stations were under construction. Diplomatic relations had been established with 12 peaceful civilizations. And humanity was preparing to send its first exploration missions beyond the solar system. Commander Lisa Grant returned from the collective with news that filled humanity with hope. The Zalkarian frigate Whisper of Conquest limped away from Earth's orbit. its commander staring at the screens showing the massive debris field behind him. Commander Zilvax had been a warrior for 20 cycles, had seen dozens of battles, but nothing had prepared him for what he had just witnessed. His communication officer approached him, moving carefully on shaking legs. "Commander, we are receiving long-range transmissions from across this sector. Multiple civilizations monitored the battle. The humans broadcast everything. The entire galaxy will know what happened here within days." Zilvax nodded slowly. Of course the humans had broadcast it. This was not just about defeating one fleet. This was about sending a message to every civilization that might threaten Earth. The humans had announced themselves to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. On Earth, Major Kyle Harrison sat in his office beneath the Colorado mountains, writing his report on the battle. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing with the implications of what had just occurred. In 6 minutes, humanity had gone from being an unknown species to being one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy. His phone rang. It was General Paul Rodriguez calling from the Asian Command Center. "Kyle, we are getting reports from our deep space monitoring stations. Multiple alien civilizations are recalling their exploration fleets from this sector. Some are already sending diplomatic signals requesting peaceful contact." "That was fast," Kyle said. "Fear travels quickly," Paul replied. "We just destroyed an Imperial fleet without taking a single casualty. Without even letting their weapons touch our planet. Every civilization watching is recalculating their assessment of humanity." Kyle leaned back in his chair. "Is that good or bad?" "Both," Paul said. "It means they will not attack us. But it also means they see us as a potential threat. We need to be very careful about what we do next." In the White House Situation Room, President Martinez met with his closest advisors. Secretary of Defense Linda Murphy was the first to speak. She was 58 with iron gray hair and a reputation for straight talk. "Mr. President, we have a problem. The world just watched us destroy 3,000 alien ships using weapons that nobody knew existed. People are scared. They are asking why we kept this secret. They are asking what else we have been hiding." Martinez nodded. He had expected this. "Schedule a worldwide address for tonight. I will explain everything. The time for secrets is over." "What about the other nations?" asked Secretary of State George Palmer. "Some countries are upset that these weapons were developed primarily by the United States and our closest allies. They feel left out of the defense of Earth." "Then we share the technology," Martinez said firmly. "All of it. Every nation on Earth gets access to our defensive systems. We cannot protect our planet if we are divided. From now on, Earth's defense is a unified effort." His advisors looked surprised, but Martinez continued. "We showed the galaxy our strength. Now we need to show them our unity. That is the only way this works." That evening, every human on Earth watched as their president appeared on their screens once again. Martinez looked tired but resolute, the weight of leadership visible on his face. "My fellow citizens of Earth," he began. "Today we defended our world against an alien invasion. Many of you have questions about the weapons we used, about why they were kept secret, about what happens next. I am here to provide answers." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "In 1947, we discovered that we were not alone in the universe. An alien probe crashed in our desert and our leaders made a choice. They could tell the world and risk chaos, or they could keep it secret and use the technology to prepare for a day like today. They chose to prepare. Over the following decades, we recovered more alien technology. We studied it. We learned from it. And we built weapons to defend ourselves. This was done in secret because we needed time. Time to build. Time to prepare. Time to create a defense that could actually work against enemies with technology far beyond our own." Martinez's voice grew stronger. "Some people are angry that this was kept secret. I understand that anger, but I ask you to consider the alternative. If we had announced these discoveries, chaos would have followed. Nations would have fought over the technology. Panic would have spread, and we would not have been ready when the Zalcarians arrived." He looked directly into the camera. "Today, 3,000 alien warships came to our world intending to conquer or destroy us. They fired enough weapons to kill every living thing on this planet, and we stopped them. Every single one of those weapons was neutralized. Then we destroyed their fleet in 6 minutes. Not one human died. Not one city was damaged. That is what 75 years of preparation accomplished. Around the world, people listened. Some were still angry. Some were frightened by the power their governments had hidden, but most felt something else: relief that Earth had survived, and pride that humanity had proven itself capable of standing against the darkness. Moving forward, Martinez continued, all of our defensive technology will be shared with every nation on Earth. The defense of our planet is not the responsibility of one country or one alliance. It belongs to all of us. We will build more defense stations together. We will train our people together. We will face the future together as one species. In Brussels, Commander Lisa Grant watched the president's speech with approval. She had been arguing for international cooperation for years. Now it was finally happening. Earth would speak with one voice to the galaxy. In the Pacific, Colonel Amy Watson sent new orders to her fleet. They would begin joint training exercises with naval forces from every major nation. The defense of Earth would truly be a unified effort. Dr. Helen Carter watched the speech from her research station, feeling a mix of emotions. Relief that the secret was finally out. Concern about what would happen now that the world knew about the weapons. But mostly hope that humanity would rise to meet the challenges ahead. Do you think sharing the technology is wise? Dr. Vincent Moore asked her. Helen considered the question. I think keeping it secret is no longer possible. The galaxy knows what we have. Trying to maintain secrecy now would only divide us, and we cannot afford to be divided. Far across the galaxy, Commander Zilvax's ship finally entered hyperspace, carrying its message of Earth's power. The journey back to the Zelkarian homeworld would take weeks, but the message had already preceded him, carried by faster communication methods. The Empire knew. They had watched the battle through their fleet's transmissions. They had seen their mighty armada destroyed in minutes. When Zilvax finally arrived home, he was immediately summoned before Emperor Calthrax. The throne room was enormous, with walls of polished stone and ceilings that soared into darkness. The Emperor sat on a raised platform, surrounded by advisors and military leaders. Tell us everything, the Emperor commanded. Leave out no detail. Zilvax told his story. He described the human weapons that made the fleet's attacks useless. He explained how the gravitational weapons crushed ships like insects. He talked about the quantum disruptors that dissolved matter at the atomic level. He spoke of how the entire fleet died in 6 minutes, and how his ship was deliberately spared to carry the message home. When he finished, silence filled the throne room. Finally, the Emperor spoke. How is this possible? Our intelligence said the humans were primitive. They had barely achieved spaceflight. They were divided and weak. The military advisor spoke up, his voice careful. Your Majesty, it appears the humans deliberately concealed their capabilities. They allowed us to underestimate them while they prepared weapons that could defeat us. It was a deception that lasted decades. Emperor Calthrax's claws scraped against the arms of his throne. They played us for fools. They let us think we were superior, while they built an arsenal that could destroy our fleet in minutes. What are your orders, Your Majesty? The Admiral of the Home Fleet asked. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he made his decision. Earth and its system are forbidden territory. No Zelkarian ship will approach within 10 light years without explicit permission from Earth's government. Any commander who violates this order will be executed. The humans have earned their sovereignty. We will not challenge them again. But Your Majesty, one advisor protested, this makes us look weak to the other empires. No, the Emperor said firmly. It makes us look wise. The humans destroyed 3,000 warships in 6 minutes without taking damage. They have weapons we do not understand and cannot counter. Attacking them again would not show strength. It would show stupidity. And I am not stupid, he stood from his throne. Send a diplomatic message to Earth. Inform them that the Zelkarian Empire acknowledges their sovereignty and wishes to establish peaceful relations. Make it clear that we will not threaten them again. Back on Earth 3 days after the battle, humanity was still adjusting to its new reality. News channels discussed the implications endlessly. Scientists debated the technology that had been revealed. Politicians argued about how to share the defensive capabilities fairly among all nations. But one thing was clear to everyone. Earth was no longer isolated. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy, not with exploration or peaceful overtures, but with an overwhelming display of defensive power. The galaxy now knew that Earth would defend itself. The darkness of space rippled like water as the alien ships appeared. One by one, they emerged from nowhere, their massive hulls blocking out the stars. There were thousands of them, each one bigger than a city. Their metal surfaces gleamed under the distant light of the sun, and their weapons bristled along every edge like the spines of some enormous beast. Admiral Vexithor stood in the control room of his flagship, watching the small blue planet grow larger on his screen. He was tall, even for his species, with 4 arms and skin that looked like dark metal. His eyes glowed red in the dim light of the bridge, and his mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. "This will be easy," he said to his officers. "Look at them. They have barely left their own planet. They fight among themselves like children. They will surrender before we even fire a shot." The officers clicked their mandibles in agreement. They had done this hundreds of times before, conquering world after world across the galaxy. Earth would be no different. The Zalcarian Empire always won. It was the natural order of things. On Earth, it was a normal Tuesday morning. People went to work, children went to school, and nobody expected anything unusual to happen. Then every screen in the world went black at the same time. Every television, every computer, every phone showed the same image. An alien face with glowing red eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. The translation came through in every language on Earth simultaneously. "Humans of Earth, I am Admiral Vexithor of the Zalcarian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You have one of your hours to surrender completely. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities one by one until nothing remains. Choose wisely." The screens went black again, leaving billions of people staring in shock and fear. In a military bunker deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, Major Kyle Harrison was already moving. He was a career soldier, 42 years old, with gray hair at his temples and steady hands that never shook even now. He had trained for this day his entire life, though he had hoped it would never come. "Get me a direct line to the president," Kyle said calmly to his communications officer, "and activate Protocol Sentinel immediately." Around the world, similar orders were being given. In Europe, Commander Lisa Grant pulled up classified files that most people did not know existed. In Asia, General Paul Rodriguez began coordinating with every military force on the planet. In the Pacific, Colonel Amy Watson brought her fleet to full battle readiness. These were not panicked reactions. These were practiced steps that had been rehearsed thousands of times in secret. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. President John Martinez sat in the Oval Office, his face calm as he listened to Kyle Harrison's report. He was 60 years old, with dark hair and kind eyes that had seen too much suffering in his time as a leader, but there was steel in his voice when he spoke. "How long do we have?" the president asked. 57 minutes until their deadline, sir," Kyle replied through the secure video link. "Good. That gives us time to address the world. Make sure every human on Earth can hear what I'm about to say." 10 minutes later, President Martinez appeared on every screen that had shown the alien threat. He looked directly into the camera, and when he spoke, his voice was steady and strong. "My fellow citizens of Earth," he began, "you have just seen an alien fleet arrive at our world. They have threatened us with destruction if we do not surrender. I want you to know something important. We are not going to surrender. Not today, not ever." He paused, letting his words sink in. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing to listen. In homes and offices, in streets and parks, humanity held its collective breath. "These aliens believe we are weak," the president continued. "They think we are divided and unprepared. They have made a serious mistake. For 75 years since we first discovered we were not alone in the universe, we have been preparing for this day. We built weapons they cannot imagine. We created defenses they have never seen, and we did it all in secret, while appearing weak to anyone who might be watching." His expression hardened. "The Zalcarians think they are predators and we are prey. They are about to learn that humans are neither. We are survivors. We are fighters, and we protect our home." The broadcast ended, but its effect rippled across the planet. Fear turned to determination. Panic gave way to resolve. Humanity had been given a choice: surrender or fight. They chose to fight. In orbit around Earth, hidden among what looked like communication satellites, 12 massive defense stations began to wake up. They had been there for years, disguised as harmless equipment. Now they shed their camouflage and revealed their true purpose. Weapons the size of buildings rotated into position, targeting systems came online, and reactors hummed with barely contained power. Captain Daniel Brooks commanded Defense Station Liberty, one of the 12 platforms. He was 38 with a square jaw and eyes that missed nothing. His crew of 200 worked with practiced efficiency, following procedures they had trained for since the day they enlisted. "All systems green," reported Lieutenant Karen Price from her station. She was young, only 25, but she was the best tactical officer in the fleet. Her fingers flew over her controls as she brought up targeting data on 3,000 alien ships. "Good," Daniel said quietly. "Charge all weapons to full power. When they make their move, we respond immediately. No hesitation." In the Zalkarian flagship, Admiral Vexthor watched the countdown timer approach 0. The humans had not responded to his ultimatum, except with that foolish speech from their leader. They actually intended to resist. The thought amused him. "Prepare all weapons," he ordered. "When the deadline passes, we will fire on their largest cities first. Let them watch their civilization burn. Then they will beg for mercy." 3,000 alien warships began to hum with deadly energy. Their weapons had destroyed countless worlds before. In minutes, they would fire enough destructive power to crack a planet's crust and boil its oceans away. The deadline arrived. Admiral Vexthor raised one of his forearms. "All ships target acquired. Prepare to fire on my command." Around the planet, defense stations locked their weapons onto the alien fleet. In bunkers and command centers, human officers watched their screens with steady eyes. In homes around the world, families huddled together, trusting that their leaders had told them the truth. The moment hung in space like a held breath. Two civilizations ready to test their strength against each other. One believed in inevitable victory. The other knew the cost of failure. "Fire," Admiral Vexthor commanded, and the battle for Earth began. The battle had been raging for 3 minutes and the Zalkarian fleet was dying. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being torn apart like paper. Weapons that had destroyed civilizations were useless against Earth's defenses. Admiral Vexthor stood on his bridge watching his empire's might crumble before his eyes. "All ships emergency combat maneuvers," he ordered desperately. "Scatter formation. Do not group together. Make yourselves harder targets," but it did not matter. The human weapons tracked every ship with perfect accuracy. The quantum disruptors did not miss. The gravitational lances did not need to aim carefully. They simply reached out across space and crushed whatever they touched. Captain Daniel Brooks watched his tactical display with cold efficiency. Each dot on his screen represented an alien ship. Each time a dot vanished, that meant another enemy vessel destroyed. The dots were disappearing faster than he could count them. "Target the command ships," Daniel ordered Lieutenant Karen Price. "Big ones first. Cut off their leadership." Karen's fingers danced across her controls, marking targets for the defense platforms. "Flagship identified in Sector 3. Transferring coordinates to all stations. Ready to fire on your command, sir." "Fire," Daniel said simply. 3 gravitational lances converged on the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Vexthor's flagship. The beams were invisible, impossible to detect until they struck. The ship's shields, designed to stop energy weapons and physical projectiles, did nothing against manipulated gravity. The flagship began to groan and buckle. Admiral Vexthor felt the deck tilt beneath his feet as the ship's structural support started to fail. Alarms screamed throughout the vessel. His crew shouted reports of hull breaches, failing systems, and catastrophic damage. "Abandon ship," Vexthor said, his voice hollow with defeat. "All crew to escape pods. Abandon ship immediately." But there was nowhere to run. The escape pods launched, but they were just smaller targets. Human weapons tracked each one with ruthless precision. Some were dissolved by quantum disruptors. Others were caught by gravitational fields and crushed. Within seconds, the flagship and all its escape pods were nothing but debris and ionized particles. In the research station buried beneath the mountains, Dr. Helen Carter monitored the battle with clinical detachment. Dr. Vincent Moore stood beside her, watching the same data streams. "Enemy fleet strength down to 47%, Vincent reported. "They are trying to scatter, but our targeting systems are tracking all of them." Helen nodded. "Continue firing, but leave one ship intact. A small one, nothing important. We need someone to carry a message back to whoever sent this fleet." Vincent entered commands into his console, marking one small frigate on the far edge of the battle zone as a protected target. The artificial intelligence controlling the weapon systems would destroy everything except that one ship. Around Earth, the slaughter continued. It was not a battle anymore. It was an execution. The Zalkarian ships were helpless, their weapons ineffective, their defenses useless. They tried to fight back, firing everything they had, but nothing reached Earth's surface. The null field stopped it all. Commander Lisa Grant stood in the European Space Command Center, watching live feeds from multiple defense satellites. She was 41, with blonde hair tied back in a tight bun and blue eyes that had seen combat before, but she had never seen anything like this. They really thought they could just show up and conquer us, she said quietly to her aide. They had no idea what we had built. Should we feel guilty about this, ma'am? The young aide asked. Lisa turned to look at him. They came here to kill billions of people. They gave us an ultimatum, surrender or die. They fired first. We defended ourselves. Never feel guilty about surviving. In the Pacific, Colonel Amy Watson commanded a fleet of submarines equipped with missile systems that could strike targets in space. Her vessels had not needed to fire a single shot. The orbital platforms were handling the battle alone. But she remained ready, watching, waiting to add her firepower if needed. Remarkable, she said to her executive officer. We spent trillions of dollars on these weapons and most people never knew they existed. Now everyone will know. The world will never be the same after today. On the Zalcarian frigate Whisper of Conquest, Commander Zilvax realized that his ship had not been fired upon for almost a minute. All around him the fleet was being destroyed, but his small vessel remained untouched. At first he thought it was luck. Then he understood the horrible truth: they were letting him live. The humans were deliberately sparing his ship. They wanted a survivor. They wanted someone to carry the story of this defeat back home. Zilvax felt a deep cold settle into his chest. Being spared was not mercy. It was a calculated choice designed to spread fear. The humans were sending a message through him, and that message was simple. Do not come here. 5 minutes after the battle began, Major Kyle Harrison received a report from the defense platforms. Sir, enemy fleet strength is down to 11%. Most remaining ships are severely damaged. Do we continue firing? Kyle looked at the tactical display showing the debris field that had once been 3,000 warships. He picked up his secure phone and called President Martinez. Mr. President, the battle is nearly over. The enemy fleet is destroyed. We have one ship remaining intact as ordered. Shall we finish this? President Martinez sat in the Situation Room beneath the White House, surrounded by military advisors and cabinet members. Everyone looked at him, waiting for his decision. He thought about the billions of lives that had been threatened. He thought about the message Earth needed to send. Finish it, the president said. Leave only the one ship. Make sure there is no doubt about what happened here. Kyle relayed the order to all defense platforms. The firing continued with mechanical precision. The quantum disruptors reached out across space, disintegrating ship after ship. The gravitational lances compressed hulls into points of impossibly dense matter, then let them evaporate into radiation. 6 minutes after it began, the battle ended. Of the 3,000 warships that had arrived to conquer Earth, only one remained, the small frigate Whisper of Conquest, floating alone in a vast field of debris and expanding gas clouds. Commander Zilvax stood on his bridge, looking at the screens showing the destruction around him. His crew was silent, too shocked to speak. They had witnessed the complete annihilation of an Imperial fleet in less time than it took to eat a meal. Then the human communication came through, displayed on every screen in his ship. It was the face of Earth's president, and when he spoke, Zilvax's translator rendered his words into Zalcarian. Commander of the surviving vessel, I am President John Martinez of Earth. Your fleet came to our world with the intent to conquer or destroy us. You fired weapons meant to kill billions of innocent people. You gave us no choice but to defend ourselves. Zilvax could only listen, unable to respond, unable to do anything but hear what this human leader had to say. We have destroyed your fleet, Martinez continued. We spared your ship for one reason, to send a message. Return to your empire. Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them that Earth is defended by weapons they cannot overcome. Tell them that if they or any other civilization attempts to invade our world again, there will be no survivors, no one to carry warnings, only silence. The president leaned forward, his eyes hard as stone. We did not seek this fight. We do not want to conquer anyone. But we will defend our home with every weapon we possess. Make sure your leaders understand this. Make sure the entire galaxy understands. Earth is not prey. We are not victims. And we are done being underestimated. The communication ended. Zilvax felt his ship's engines suddenly restart. The humans had released the locks on his systems. They were letting him go, sending him home with the most terrifying message he had ever been asked to deliver. In the research station, Helen Carter finally allowed herself to sit down. The battle was over. Earth had won. But she felt no triumph, only exhaustion and the weight of what they had done. 3,000 ships, Vincent said quietly beside her, gone in 6 minutes. They would have killed everyone on Earth, Helen replied. Every man, woman, and child. We did what we had to do. I know, Vincent said, but the galaxy will fear us now. Helen looked at him. Good, fear will keep others away. Fear will give us time to figure out what comes next. Fear means our families are safe. Around the world, people emerged from shelters and safe rooms looking up at the sky. The alien threat was gone. Earth had survived. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that did not appear on any map, Dr. Helen Carter walked quickly through corridors of steel and concrete. She was 56 years old with gray streaks in her brown hair and glasses that constantly slid down her nose. Her security badge opened doors that only 12 people on Earth were allowed to pass through. She had worked in this place for 30 years. She had devoted her entire adult life to a single project, making sure humanity would survive if aliens ever came to destroy them. Today, all those years of work would be tested. Give me a full status report, Helen said as she entered the main control room. The room was huge, filled with computers and screens showing data that would look like nonsense to most people. But Helen understood every number, every graph, every blinking light. Dr. Vincent Moore looked up from his console. He was 48, thin and pale from spending most of his life underground. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his hands were steady. All quantum disruptor satellites are online and synchronized, he reported. The gravitational lance network is charged to 100% capacity. Null field generators are standing by for activation. Helen nodded. These words meant nothing to the average person. But they represented the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created. Weapons built from technology that did not originate on Earth. It had started in 1947, when something crashed in the desert near Roswell, New Mexico. The government had told the public it was a weather balloon. That was a lie. It was a probe from another world, damaged and broken but filled with technology far beyond anything humans could make. Instead of announcing it to the world, leaders made a different choice. They kept it secret. They studied it. And over the decades, as more alien objects were found, as more crashed ships were recovered, human scientists slowly learned how to use that technology. They learned, they built, and they waited. Helen had been part of that effort since she was a young woman fresh out of graduate school. She remembered the first time she saw an alien power core, the way it generated energy without fuel. She remembered the day they successfully tested the first gravitational weapon. She remembered knowing that humanity now had a chance if the day ever came when they needed to fight for their survival. That day had arrived. How long until the alien fleet opens fire? Helen asked. Our satellites show their weapons are charging, Vincent replied, checking his screens. Based on their energy output, they will fire in approximately 90 seconds. Helen picked up a communication device that connected her directly to every military command center on Earth. When she spoke, generals and admirals on every continent heard her voice. All defense platforms, this is Research Station Omega. You are cleared to activate all weapon systems. When the enemy fires, you are authorized to respond with full force. Show them what humanity has built. Around the planet, in orbit where no one could see them clearly, hundreds of satellites that looked like simple communication equipment began to transform. Panels opened, revealing machinery that hummed with power. These were the quantum disruptors, devices that could tear apart the fundamental forces that held matter together. The 12 defense stations stopped pretending to be harmless. Their disguises fell away like masks, revealing weapons that had taken 20 years to build. Each station was larger than an aircraft carrier, powered by reactors that used alien technology to generate almost unlimited energy. Captain Daniel Brooks felt the Liberty vibrate slightly as its main weapon came to full power. Through the windows of the command deck, he could see the alien fleet surrounding Earth in every direction. 3,000 ships, each one bristling with weapons. Against any normal planet, it would have been overwhelming force. But Earth was not a normal planet. Enemy fleet is firing, Lieutenant Karen Price announced, her voice cutting through the tension on the bridge. Daniel watched his screen as thousands of weapons activated across the alien fleet. Beams of energy bright enough to melt steel, missiles moving faster than bullets, and torpedoes carrying antimatter capable of destroying entire cities. all of it aimed at Earth, all of it designed to kill billions of people in seconds. "Activate null field," Daniel ordered calmly. The null field generators were humanity's first line of defense, and they were based on technology from a crashed ship found in Antarctica in 1972. They did something that physics said should be impossible. They created zones of space where certain physical laws simply stopped working. The alien weapons hit the null field and vanished. Not exploded, not deflected. They simply ceased to exist. Plasma beams that should have carved through mountains dispersed into harmless light. Antimatter torpedoes that should have created explosions visible from the moon disappeared without a trace. Kinetic missiles moving at incredible speed stopped instantly and crumbled to dust. On the Zalkarian flagship, Admiral Vex Thor stared at his screens in disbelief. His tactical officer was shouting reports, but the Admiral barely heard them. Every weapon his fleet had fired, representing enough destructive power to destroy a dozen planets, had done absolutely nothing. The blue planet below remained untouched, not a single explosion, not a single hit. "How is this possible?" Vex Thor demanded. "Their technology is primitive. Our intelligence reports showed they barely have basic spaceflight." His tactical officer's voice shook. "Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy spikes from multiple points around the planet. They're activating some kind of weapon system. Energy output is off our scales. All ships raise shields to maximum," Vex Thor ordered. "Prepare for defensive maneuvers." But he was too slow. Humanity had waited for the aliens to fire first, to prove beyond doubt that the Zalkarians had come to destroy Earth. Now the restraints were off. Now Earth would show what it had been hiding. Helen Carter spoke one word into her communication device. "Fire." The gravitational lances activated first. These weapons did not shoot bullets or beams. They manipulated gravity itself, creating focused beams of gravitational force so intense they could compress matter into points smaller than atoms. 12 lances fired from 12 stations, targeting the largest ships in the alien fleet. The effects were instant and horrifying. Where the beams touched alien ships, the vessels simply collapsed inward, crushed by their own mass magnified 1,000,000 times. Huge warships that had survived hundreds of battles imploded like crushed cans, their metal hulls compressing into balls of super-dense matter the size of basketballs. Then even those tiny points of mass evaporated in bursts of radiation, leaving nothing behind but expanding clouds of energy. In 30 seconds, the right flank of the Zalkarian fleet simply ceased to exist. 500 ships, gone as if they had never been there. Daniel Brooks watched the results on his screen, his expression grim but satisfied. "Rotate targeting to Sector 4. Fire quantum disruptors." The satellites in orbit unleashed their own attack. Quantum disruptors worked on a different principle than the gravitational lances. They targeted the strong nuclear force, the fundamental power that held atoms together. When hit by a disruptor beam, matter simply fell apart at the atomic level. Hulls dissolved. Shields collapsed. Entire squadrons of alien fighters came apart like sandcastles in the wind. Admiral Vex Thor's bridge shook as ships around him died by the hundreds. His shields held for the moment, but he watched in horror as his fleet, the pride of the Zalkarian Empire, was torn apart by weapons he did not understand. "Retreat!" he screamed at his communications officer. "Order all ships to jump to hyperspace immediately. We must escape." His navigation officer tried to activate the jump drive. Then his face went pale. "Admiral, we cannot. Something is preventing hyperspace transition. We are trapped here." The null field had a second function that humanity had not revealed yet. It locked down local space, preventing faster-than-light travel. The alien fleet could not run away. They were trapped in orbit with an enemy that was destroying them with ease. Helen Carter watched the battle unfold on her screens, her expression showing no emotion. She had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, building weapons to protect her species. Now those weapons were doing their job. But she took no joy in the destruction. She simply watched, counted the losses among the enemy fleet, and gave orders to continue firing.